achieving their own potential economic resource.
Okay. Well, at the beginning, before we continue with the line of conversation, at the beginning you referred to President Trump's approach to
Trumpian speed.
Yeah, his speed. Part of the things he also came up with is the new tariff regime that is affecting many countries in the world, including Nigeria. People have different views about this, but what do you think, or how do you think Nigeria as a country should be responding to that development in the U.S.?
You know, I think 2 or 3 years ago when President Tinubu went to the UN, I was so elated when CNN said, when, you know, each of the presidents go on the podium. So when he was speaking, the thing flashed, the caption, President Tinubu speaking for the entire African continent. That's what he should be doing. The African continent is lost in this new conversation. Thanks to Trump, he did what he didn't know would have the consequences it now has. Because when the international world order was settled, we were not there. So now that the international trade order is being dismantled, what is Nigeria's role and what is Africa's role in the new process? I don't see it. The Chinese already have their own process. They call it decoupling strategy. They are decoupling from the Western-controlled economic system. So that's something going on there. There are all kinds of new powerful international groups. In the 10 most industrialized countries, incidentally, we have Brazil and India. 2 countries that are part of the South, not the North, who can come together with Russia, whether you like it or not, South Africa, Nigeria, Turkey, to create their own world order. We ought not to depend on the world order that has been designed by the West in Westphalia, in Germany, in the 1600s. So that is part of what this disruption is all about. Creating something new, so that we're not just a dumping ground for everything. Here is a dumping ground, we don't produce anything.
In other words, you think that the best step is to think deeply and not just react to the tariff by just imposing counter tariff and stuff like that.
We have nothing to, what do we produce? So if we impose tariffs on who? So what we're going to do requires critical thinking of the president, and not just the president. Look at what Mark Carney did. Tariffs. Trump every day sits in the Oval Office shouting tariffs, tariffs. Mark Carney was governor of Canadian Central Bank, was governor of the English Central Bank, the Bank of England. Now he's prime minister. He didn't say anything. He just quietly went around the European countries and said, you know what, we're holding about 2 trillion worth of bonds that belong to the US. We shall start dumping them. Once the dumping started, there was a run on the stock market. What did Trump do? He pretended that he's giving a 90-day pause, but he was scared. But Carney didn't say a word. That's critical thinking. That's what I want to see here.
Okay. Part of the things you spoke about earlier, you called it 6 economic pillars, and one of them being a robust support system for local manufacturing, which seems to agree with what you just said. Yeah. What do we produce? That was a question you asked, though rhetorically, though. Could you speak more on that? How can the manufacturing sector in Nigeria be enabled? It's unfortunate, everybody says it, that we import almost everything down to toothpick. But there seem not to be realistic, measurable, sustainable action towards improving manufacturing. What do you think?
What I think is that there's a policy that should be in place. There must be an industrial policy, there must be a manufacturing policy. Let me just take the case of Dangote, whose hair has turned as white as yours. Here was a man who looked robust and young. thinking he was doing good, put all his energy into his Dangote refinery, the biggest in the world, what did he get? A slap. Rather than the government to welcome him with open arms, NNPC is fighting him. So why would I want to, if you were a Nigerian president and you say, Olisa, come, I want to make you rich. Choose one. Here is a big license to import PMS, or here is a license to build a refinery. I will take the importation because the government is not supporting anything. They're not doing anything to enable the environment. The Chinese Exim Bank gives every exporter, no matter how small, 50% of the cost of production. So if a Chinese 111 is exporting shoes, it gets 50% rebate. So you see, it pushes people. What the policy should be is not my specialty, but I know that there has to be a policy that encourages people to want to invest because people want to make money. Businessmen are all about making money. So if they suddenly see that the environment is suitable to build factories and industries and hospitals and schools, they will do it. Right now it is hostile. So nothing's happening. And if we don't reverse that, it's called import substitution. If we don't reverse it, Nigeria's going to be like this for a long time.
Okay, in addition to supporting manufacturing, the other five appear to summarize almost everything that we've been speaking about: decentralized power, restructure oversized public sector, applying subsidy saving to infrastructure, take full control of oil wells and natural resources. Government must get out of business. Those are, all of them make up the 6. But I would like you to speak to a few of them, which restructure oversized public sector. What exactly do you mean here?
Let's take the federal public service, which I've personally looked at. I haven't looked at most of the states. The federal public service is about 3 million people. And the budget, the recurrent expenditure for each budget that is drawn up and announced, 70 to 80% goes to paying their salaries. It's not sustainable. So the remainder 30% does every other thing. Capital. OPEX consumes everything. What am I even saying? Ononye has done it now. Ononye did the report in 2010. It's unimplemented. He set out the agencies that he felt ought to go. He set out the agencies that he thought should be merged. So I accept what he says, and that we ought to downsize irrelevant. Okay, example. The colonial office, colonial government, were masters of the cabinet office, which we now call the head of service office. It's useless. I don't know what they do. The SGF has about 13 to 14 permanent secretaries. What exactly is the function of the SGF? Because the SGF function is exactly what the chief of staff does in a presidential system. So we're combining presidential system and parliamentary. So all these 3, we don't need it. And I can go sports, Minister of Sports, Minister of Labor. If I were president, you know what I would do? Although it may not sound very popular. I will call all the vice chancellors and pro chancellors and say, I can't pay you people. Every day you guys do strike. I just can't pay. You know what? Run your affairs. I ceased to be visitor. Visitor was something that was introduced in the time of Queen Elizabeth. So Queen Elizabeth is visitor of all federal universities. Is Tinubu able to do that? I said, I don't want to do it again. Go and do what you like. Do what they do abroad. Raise your funds. I will not give you a dime. That saves money. So when you multiply this across the federal public service, you are reducing costs.
Okay, let's talk about Nigeria debt profile. Q3 of 2024, we had about 142 trillion naira as collectively the debt profile of Nigeria.